I just wanted to say that I don't think this is a new phenomenon. And as an Air Force veteran and a woman, I was accused more than 20 years ago now of being a witch. And that happened more than once. And as I went through components, it continued. And when I say components, as I went from active duty to reserve to guard, it became worse. What he's saying is true. It's been going on for quite a while, since I would say the all-volunteer military was brought into place. And by the way, I happen to have been enlisted, but I had, as an airman, already achieved a master's. So I was a bit of a threat. I was a bit of a strange one. But what I wanted to say is it's getting worse. I work today with military, and it has a component which is, not only is it against women, not only is it against homosexuals, which has continued. Your ability to talk about politics has suddenly, the lid has come off, but it's also against science, and it's also against anyone that holds a clearance. There's special tests which they're allowed to ask special questions, and if you think you have no constitutional rights when you're in the military, you have absolutely nothing when you hold a clearance or any type of a clearance. And this is the type of means test that it's getting. I sent you an email recently stating that it is now going into the contractor realm. As we know that part of the contractors are now following the military. There's a program which is in at least Ohio and about 4 other states, which is a pilot program, which is a faith-based initiative for training of contractors. And that's going to mean that for small business contractors, that's going to mean that there's going to be set-asides for small business personnel who meet this criteria and who go through this chain. So it's becoming more and more pervasive, and I really hope that people are taking this very seriously, because it's going all the way down and through all the ranks and the contractor ranks as well.
Thank you very much for saying that. Let me give you a little flavor, ladies and gentlemen. I brought along a couple of quotes that kind of rung my bell when I first decided to change my life from being a businessman and a lawyer and doing this. At a big convention of Dominionist Christians, Randall Terry, another person I'll never be going out to dinner with, the head of Operation Rescue, made the following statement to a cheering crowd. I want you to just have a wave of intolerance. Let a wave of intolerance wash over you. I want a wave of hatred to wash over you, because, yes, hate is good. Our goal is a fundamentalist Christian nation. We have a biblical duty. We are called by Jesus, our Lord, to conquer this country, America. We do not want equal time. We do not want pluralism. Here's one from D. James Kennedy, who's on your TV every night, particularly on Sundays with the Coral Ridge Ministries. Our job is to reclaim all of America for Christ, whatever the cost. Whatever the cost. We are to exercise godly dominion and influence, there's that word dominion again, over our neighborhoods, our schools, our government, our literature and arts, our sports arenas, our entertainment media, our news media, our scientific endeavors, in every aspect of institution of human society on planet Earth. Make no mistake, we are an emerging Christian right leadership, and we intend to Christianize all aspects of American life, from the halls of government, to the libraries, to the movies, to the recording studios, to the playing fields and locker rooms of professional collegiate and amateur sports, from the U.S. military to SpongeBob SquarePants. So what are we going to do? Who's going to stand up and do something? Elie Wiesel, a few months ago, the main chronicler and witness to the Holocaust, we had a little discussion, and he has a very heavy accent, but he said something that shocked me. He asked me what my definition of anti-Semitism was. Remember, this isn't a Christian-Jewish issue, but anti-Semitism is one of the great 4 pillars of the malodorous scent that I talked about. And I was taken aback, and I gave him what I thought the common definition is, which is what I'm sure most of you would have said. He said, no, that's not my definition, and I was surprised. And I said, well, Professor, he teaches at Boston University. What's your definition? He said, anti-Semitism is Jewish inaction in the face of oppression. I gave a speech here in L.A. a few months ago at the Leo Baeck Synagogue. Some of you may know it. Rabbi Leo Baeck was famous in the 1915, 16, 17, a very, very famous rabbi. And one of his most famous statements, which really is the reason we're here tonight, is that in this life, the rabbi felt we are not only judged by what we do, but we are also judged by what we permit to be done. You just can't go back and, we're missing the All-Star game tonight, and is Barry Bonds going to, actually have an asterisk next to his name? Is Bud Selig going to actually show up to watch him break the record? I know it's all great and good. Tahiti was beautiful. I loved it. It's fine. But how can I look at this? How can any of us do this when we're losing the country? There's a reason The Simpsons is so popular. Most of America is Homer Simpson. So what are we going to do about it? And he's been trained to vote now, by Focus on the Family. Do you know that when Focus on the Family came to Colorado Springs, which, by the way, is often referred to as the Protestant Vatican, over 100 of our nation's largest evangelical organizations are headquartered there, many of them Dominionist. When they opened up in 1993, some idiot at the Pentagon thought it would be a great idea to have the famous parachute team at my beloved alma mater, the Air Force Academy, the Wings of Blue, parachute down, float down, past the fluffy clouds and the azure blue Colorado Springs sky, carrying the keys of heaven. They landed on the front lawn of Dr. Dobson, picked up their parachutes, marched in formation, and the cadets turned over the keys of heaven to Dr. Dobson. The lady who spoke is absolutely correct. I can tell you that our researchers have found that the real fork in the road was 1972 with the end of mandatory conscription, because when we had the draft in this country, at least in theory, we were pulling uniformly from what we now refer to as blue and red states. At the end, and we had people coming in that were already pissed off because they were being forced to come in, and a spoonful of sugar didn't necessarily make the Jesus go down with people already angry, people that were coming from states that were had a more progressive perspective than, say, parts of what are traditionally known as red states. But now, with this so-called voluntary force, we see this fusion of, quote, patriotism with militarism. The Dominionist Christians have appropriated so much Americana. They have appropriated the Washington Monument. They have appropriated the White House, the Star-Spangled Banner itself, the Capitol building. We are now fighting events that are being held by virulent Dominionist organizations, fascistic organizations, where they have senior-ranking members of the U.S. military appearing in uniform with the airplanes flying over. Now, again, I understand the need to want to celebrate our military, but when you intersperse that with engaging the machinery of the state, and our federal judiciary knows damn well what that means. It's not a slippery slope. Forget the slope. We're almost facing a wasteland right now. That's what we're dealing with. We actually have to do something now. The easy thing that I know to do is to fund our foundation. It's all a tax deduction. Maybe as opposed to giving to the local Little League or the Petunia of the Month Club, consider talking to your friends about giving us something and get the same tax deduction and help us fight. You won't have to get the death threats. You won't have to get the calls that I get every 7 or 8 days for the last 2.5 years, a group of what I presume are Dominionist Christian women on the phone chanting to me and my family, Mikey Weinstein, bullet in the head, praise the Lord, he's finally dead. My wife getting phone calls saying they're going to blow her head off and bury her in a place where she won't be found. She'll be covered in her own blood. They have her license plate number, and they know that she has a small crack in the windshield of her car. Feces and beer bottles thrown at the house, tires slashed. We'll deal with that, not you. Recently I gave a speech in Kansas where the wonderful Democratic governor, Catherine Sebelius, who stood up to George Bush recently when the tornadoes hit out there, I got to meet with her and gave a number of speeches and media events, book signings, met with the chancellor of the University of Kansas. At one of the events where I gave a speech at the university, a local leader from the largest Episcopal church in Topeka, St. David's, came out and supported me with a rousing 5-minute speech. It was in the evening, like tonight. And 5 minutes later, I was awakened by members of, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, because St. David's Church was burned to the ground. And the local synagogue where I was to appear had gone through a series of anti-Semitic things that have happened. And that's fine. I mean, if that's the way we're going to play it. I mean, I know it's hardball. I have members of my board, whom, by the way, include Ambassador Joseph Wilson, who's a wonderful, wonderful American, of course. General Bob Harries, who was the former vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Admiral Bud Cotter, the first naval officer to command all U.S. naval forces in the Atlantic, Pacific, and NATO fleets. Reza Aslan is probably the most well-respected Islamic young intellectual in the country. Dick Lamb, 3-term governor of Colorado. We have gay, straight. We've got green, independent, Republican, Democratic, Hindu, Jewish, Protestant, Catholic. We've got everybody there. But how do you get America to wake up and stop being concerned about the PlayStation 3s? That's the issue. That's why I'm here tonight.
Thank you so much. We're just about out of time. Do you want to take one more?
Yeah, just one more.